Jake, tell me the story of Punta Cana, and if you ever thought that Ted Kheel and Frank Ranieri would imagine you coming here to the World Bank in Washington, D.C. to tell the story.
I think, Ted passed away a few years ago, but I think he would have thought this would be pretty ridiculous, really. He's even the idea, anytime he heard the numbers, the most recent numbers of how many people were arriving at the airport, which is now 3.5 million arriving passengers a year, he would just sort of chuckle. And they'd say, "What, you don't believe it?" And he said, "No, I really don't believe it, but not in the sense that I don't believe that those are the real numbers. I don't believe that actually happened from what we started with." So I think they would be, Frank and Ted would be pretty happy about it.
When did Ted start Punta Cana?
He bought the land in the eastern part of the Dominican Republic in 1969. It was basically a big error. He bought very cheap land at a time when there was no development at that end of the island, and then was fortunate enough to meet up with a 23-year-old Dominican with a lot of ambition and a lot of good ideas named Frank Ranieri, and together they sort of built this partnership, and they made many deals over the years, made a lot of mistakes, but essentially got tourism in the Dominican Republic kick-started from scratch.
So one big mistake in 1969, a series of other mistakes throughout the
That's
years.
right.
So what are you here to do at the World Bank? What do you hope to achieve?
So we're here for the premiere of Caribbean Green Travel. It's a documentary film that was made by the Center for Responsible Tourism, for Responsible Travel, CREST, and we've been working with them for a number of years, including last year. We held the Innovators Think Tank in Punta Cana, where we brought together all types of experts on sustainable tourism to share experiences, share ideas, and then a growth out of that meeting was this film. And so the idea is exploring different case studies of positive examples in the Caribbean of sustainable tourism, and showing how that can be a positive model for development in the Caribbean, and how tourism can have a positive impact on the economy and on the environment and on the local communities of the Caribbean.
What does it mean for Punta Cana? Are you going to talk about any of those mistakes over the years, or?
I think the interventions we'll have after the movie will be pretty brief, but essentially, our message is that tourism is a tremendous asset for a country if it's well managed, if it's well planned, and if it's well implemented, with a really thoughtful consideration of the local environment, local people. And if you forget about those key assets as part of your core business, then you're looking for trouble, and you'll really end up damaging your business. So I think our commitment has been to sustainability really as part of our core business, and that's what we really try and promote, and we try and get other tourism operations in the Dominican Republic and other places around the Caribbean to think of it that way.
Did you ever think this would be meaningful enough to be presented here in Washington at the World Bank to policymakers?
I started in Punta Cana 11 years ago, and basically we had a series of challenges related to the environment, and we just went about grinding away and trying to find solutions to them. And some of those have turned out to be pretty successful examples of how you can create this balance between environment and development. And that's really what we've been trying to do. Is, as Ted would say, there's his background was in conflict resolution, and he said there's this great conflict between development, economic development, and environmental protection. And the solution is sustainable development. And the challenge is, how do we do it? And so this is what we've been trying to do, is sort of implement his vision for sustainability, using Punta Cana as our laboratory.
So if a question comes up today of how have you done it, or how have you been doing it in Punta Cana, what are you going to say?
Well, I think most of our examples that are in the film sort of speak for themselves. We've been looking at coral reefs, for example, as one of our key assets, because it creates the beaches that attract the tourists. And so we invest a lot of resources, a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money in protecting coral reefs. The same with waste. We have all kinds of tourists that are arriving, 3.5 million arriving passengers every year. But how do we have all those passengers arrive when we also receive their garbage, and the garbage they produce while they're in Punta Cana? So we've had to find different solutions for managing the waste and figuring out really creative ways to make that an asset. We can turn these, what's normally considered a waste, into something that we then sell or find some productive use for.
If anyone here at the World Bank or even around the world wants to get more information about what you're doing in Punta Cana, where could they go?
Yeah, they can find us. Puntacana.com is our main website, and puntacana.org is all of our corporate social responsibility programs. And then we're, of course, on Facebook. We have Fundación Ecological Punta Cana. You can find us there.
Good luck, Jake.
Thanks a lot, man.